Looking cool.
Yeah, yeah. I like your jacket too.
Oh, thanks, from Morocco.
Oh, right. Okay. Great. Welcome everyone. I understand we are live now, and very good for all of you to join us. We're very happy to be here. My name is Philip Assis, but in music I use my middle name as my stage name, Philip Nelson, and I'm the deputy cultural attaché here at the U.S. Embassy in Islamabad. And I'm joined today by my friend Ariba Zar, and we're going to be talking about a new music video that he produced and wrote about the environment. And we're very, very pleased to have all of you joining us today. So just before I turn it over.
And sorry, hey, Philip, and hello everyone from my side too.
Wonderful. Yes, exactly. Just a little bit of word of introduction. The U.S. Embassy, well, with the Biden administration, we have been very intent on advancing dialogue on climate change and action towards improving the environment. It's something that affects all of us around the world, here in Pakistan, in the United States, as every country. And so and as we know, there are few motivating mediums for action better than music. So that is a little bit of by way of introduction of how this project came about. I'd like to turn the floor over to Arib to talk a little bit about the project. And let me just tell you, for those of you who are not familiar with him, Arib is an acclaimed musician. He's well known here in Pakistan, so I don't believe that he needs too much introduction, but he was the producer of the Music Mela here in Islamabad from 2014 through 2016. He's the former executive director of T2F, the T2F cultural space in Karachi, from 2018 through 2020. He's known as a global voice in using music and arts for cultural activism. He also incorporates Sufi elements as well as European folk music, having spent 13 years in Croatia. So a very interesting background that Arib brings to us and into this song. So we'll have time for any of your questions. We'd love to hear any comments you have about the idea of this song and any questions you might have. But for now, let me turn it over to Arib to talk a little bit about the concept of this music video and a bit about the background of how he produced it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Philip, and to all the viewers, listeners out there. Philip himself also has quite a interesting and colorful biography, because we got to know each other during the course of this music video. So both of us have had experience traveling around the globe and absorbing different cultures. So the idea for this song, climate change, has been something that's been very close to my heart for many years. I truly believe that that climate change is a crisis that our generation, or the generations of today, face, that has the potential to either wipe us out altogether from this planet, and that's what all the scientists from all across the globe are in agreement about that. Or it has the potential to bring us all together and act as one humanity, because this is a challenge that we can only face collectively and not individually. If one country does something and the other country doesn't, it's no use. And that's why it has to. It is forcing us to work together now. Whether we are quick enough to respond to save ourselves and life on Earth, I'm not sure, but that's what we must try to do. So this subject has been very close to my heart for several years. Philip mentioned that I was co-producer of Music Mela. After that, I did another festival called Art Langar, where we tried to incorporate the idea of sustainable living, or sustainable way of culture and economics, which work around a festival. and to try to create a festival that's self-sustaining and that sort of expresses these values of sustainability. And after Art Langar, when I was in Karachi running T2F, and when I found myself in the urban jungle of Karachi, having shifted from Islamabad, and so the only thing that came to my mind in the beginning was to start a project on the environment, and at least to address the issue if I'm surrounded by concrete. So we started a project from T2F called the Mahdharthi Project, which means the Mother Earth Project, where once a month we would hold a workshop, a session with a different environmentalist covering a different field on the subject, and call him or her over to T2F to give a talk or a session or a workshop. So we held 12 sessions of this, if I'm not mistaken, and they're all on the YouTube page of T2F, the second floor of the YouTube channel. So if anyone's interested, you can type in Mahdharthi T2F, and you can hear what these environmentalists have to say. So this was already going on in my mind when the friends from PUAN contacted me and said that this is something that they're also interested in, and whether we could do something together. And so I immediately jumped at the opportunity, and I asked a couple of friends, because I'm a musician and I'm a composer, and I write, but I'm very slow in writing, and there are not all that many songs that I have written and composed. I mostly compose, and then there are a few songs that I've written and composed, because I find it easier composing than writing. So I got a couple of writer friends and asked them to put down some words and some poetry, and I shared some thoughts with them. And they shared something with me, but I wasn't really satisfied. And then, as it happens, out of the blue, I think I got a flash of inspiration and felt that, yes, I'm onto something. I've captured the edge of something which is important. So the words came, and it's in very simple Urdu. And then there's a portion of the song in English, which Philip Assis, or Philip Nelson, as his stage name is, helped us out with, because Philip's been trained in opera, and so he could lend his operatic voice to this video. And then there's another section which is sung in Sindhi language, which has been sung by this musician from Cholistan, Tikam Das, who's a dear friend of mine. And besides him, there were other musicians with us on this project, from Tharpakar, from the Jogi community. There was Sattar Jogi, a celebrated snake charmer and Murli bean player, which is the twin flute which the snake charmers use. And then he brought his troupe with him. And then there was Mai Nimani, this wonderful singer who had also performed at one of our music melas and at Art Langar. And she came with her daughter and her niece as a backing choir. So all this made the song very special. Philip, would you like to tell us about a little more, or should I continue about the video?
Oh, sure. I can at least just add a little bit of what an honor it was for me to participate as a musician. I've done some other music here in Pakistan with other musicians, other music projects, but never one like this. With first of all about the environment, and second of all, incorporating the music that Arib just described. So that was. I also have a music background, nothing to the extent of Arib, but in the U.S., as Arib mentioned, I trained in opera, but I've also sung in choirs and done a lot of jazz music, and performed in jazz clubs and at weddings and things like that. So I have an album out, and it was really great for me to be able to be a part of this project, so that I could.
What's the album name? What's the album? Can you, if you don't mind me asking?
This is it right here. Oops. So it's called "Since I Fell for You," and it is yeah, it's all like jazz, like Frank Sinatra type music. but like original compositions. Quite a bit different than the style that we did here. And I guess I would just add on that coming from a Western musical tradition, I've learned a lot musically here in Pakistan, because of course, the Sufi music traditions and all the other Pakistani music traditions have been something for me to learn here, and I still have a lot to learn. But it's been still a lot of fun to be able to collaborate and be a part of this project and perform and sing with all the musicians on this music video. And I know that all of you watching today, you're going to really appreciate the video. I think it's got beautiful imagery, very unique sounds, very nice collaboration of different types of musicians and traditions.
Thank you. So the idea behind the song, also, what the song tries to express in Urdu language, and then in the English portion and in the Sindhi portion. The song basically tries to express the basics of the permaculture philosophy, which I'm very inspired by. So for those of you who don't know, permaculture is a short form of permanent culture, which means a sustainable form of culture. And what it basically says is that in order to survive on this earth, we have to replicate the systems, the natural systems around us, and learn from them, and not try to just simply dominate them, but to try to learn from them and then regulate them. So what that means is that there has to be a circular system of economy. There has to be a circular system of agriculture. Agriculture, when we say agriculture, we're talking about huge plantations of cash crops, which is good for profit, but bad for the soil. So permaculture says, instead of unicrop cultivation, bring in as much diversity as possible. And that keeps replenishing the soil as well as providing produce and profit. So it's a different model of working with the earth. And then how to harvest every drop of water and to use it wisely, and then how to build and diversify and keep including the environment around you within yourself. So these are the basics of permaculture, and then there are 12 principles, which I don't remember myself, all of them. But if any of you are interested, you should look this up, permaculture. So the song basically expresses that idea in a philosophical way, the idea of how we all on this planet are interconnected. Every species is interconnected, and we are all part of a living earth. We all make up the living earth. And that's why the song is called Qatra, Qatra, which can translate as each drop, every drop. And because every drop is precious, which is the part which Philip also sings. And then the Sindhi part of which we added in is a little bit of folk poetry, Sufi poetry by the great Sufi poet Shah Abdul Latif Bhitai, which Satar Jogi recommended to me, and then Tikam Das sang in Sindhi. So that was the idea behind the song. And we were all in agreement that we wanted it to have a very diverse sound. So we got all these different folk musicians from around different parts of Pakistan, mostly in Sindh and South Punjab. The idea for the video was, since there were so many people involved and we wanted everyone to come in one place to shoot the video. So we called all the musicians, gathered everyone in Islamabad, and shot the video, filmed the video over 2 days at my friend Qasim Tareen's eco farm, Islamabad, Islu Fresh Rehri Farm, it's called. For those of you who aren't aware, it's an organic farm on the Simli Dam Road when you go past the Malot area. And it's a beautiful organic farm. So he's, of course, putting the principles of permaculture in action over there. And he's studied this also from abroad. He's got a degree in the environment and in environment cultivation. So we just got everyone there, and then we created these different scenes where we were just walking around that area and interacting with each other, and singing the song and having a great time. Also, it was scorching hot when we were filming the video. We were all drenched to the bone. This was the time when it was probably the hottest in Islamabad, and so it wasn't easy. And I mean, well done, Philip, for sticking it out with us throughout in that heat and in that humidity. But yeah, we managed.
Yeah, no, that was fun. It could have been worse. It could have been, well, actually it was still August. So I was going to say it could have been late July. It might have even been worse, but yeah, it was a pretty hot day. Hot and humid. Appropriate for the theme of climate change, that it was hot and humid and we're facing
Yes, yes, yes.
global warming. Yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And the second
Yeah.
day, it actually rained, which was great to cool down the heat, but also gave us much less time to film. So we had our own challenges during the video, but it turned out
Yeah.
well, and I also really excited to share it with all of you. And and it was just so special doing a project that was so much fun and that was so meaningful at the same time. Also, just recently, I was at Mashal Model School, which Philip, of course, you know, and a lot of people watching this are aware of Mashal Model School, which is run by Zeba Hussain in Bari Imam. It's a school for street children, and she's doing amazing work. And I've composed their school anthem previously, and I sometimes hold different sessions with the kids. So I was there recently, and I sang this song to them also, without any instrumentation, and made them sing along with me. So I'm going to be sharing the text of the song with them, so the children of the school will also learn it, because it's an easy enough text for school children to latch on to it, to catch on.
Did they even learn the English part?
If you like it, share it, please.
Arif, did the children even learn the English part?
No, not yet, but they will. Because, not yet, yeah. Because right now I was just singing the Urdu part and making them sing along with me, and that would have been too difficult to do without the text in front of them. But since they learn English, absolutely, they'll learn the English part as well.
So those of you in the audience, we certainly have time for any of your questions or any thoughts you might have. Maybe I could start off. Arif, could you talk about maybe how you see creative art, such as music or other forms of art? How does that not only create awareness but inspire change in order to address things like climate change? In what ways do you? I mean, you've talked a little bit about this already, but how do you see the arts in general inspiring people to do better?
Thanks. I think the arts, all arts, and including performing arts, it's basically art is the language of culture. Culture is expressed through art, whether it's literature, or music, or dance, or poetry, or film, storytelling. All these are forms, or painting. All these are forms of expression of culture. And now art over here can play many roles, because for culture to be relevant and for culture to be for culture to have meaning in today's world, it has to keep up with the times. And that means it has to keep replenishing itself. And it has to not only teach the younger generations about the stories of our ancestors and our elders, but also express the experiences of the younger generations of what they're going through and what they think the world needs to move in which direction. Because the experiences that the younger generations are going through, our ancestors and elders didn't go through that experience. The wisdom that has been passed down to us comes from an age when climate change, for example, was not an issue on the earth, and today it is. So that's why our culture needs to keep regenerating itself, all cultures around the world. And over here, artists play a crucial role. Because artists are those people whose task it is to absorb the culture around them, or the cultures around them, and then to understand what their role within this is It's not only to parrot what they have learned, but to bring in their own creativity and their own ingenuity and their own insights into how they perceive the world, and how and that perception and that expression of the artist then gets churned back into the cultural wheel and becomes part of the cultural milieu. And so it's a regenerative process, and where there's the artist creates, being inspired by culture, and then the creation of that artist becomes a part of culture. So the role of the artists is crucial, is essential. That's why we see in every change that has come around. Of course, the change is always happening, and you can't always see it or measure it. But anytime that you can see some activity of intense or sudden change, you will also see it being complemented or followed by new art forms or artistic expressions, whether it's rock and roll we're talking about, whether it's the Irish rebel music we're talking about, or whether it's African slave songs we're talking about, or whether it's hip hop that we're talking about, or all underground culture. Because in the beginning, it begins with an underground sort of a movement until it becomes until it's taken up by the mainstream. So I think, therefore, artists have a big role to play, and that's why it's really important to understand the role of art and to support the arts, which thank you to the U.S. Embassy, thank you to the Cultural Department and the PAK-U.S. Alumni Network for having a fund for artistic activities. And I believe that on a state level also, we need to be doing much more in terms of supporting the art. And by that, it means also not only, as I said, teaching the stories of our ancestors, which is also very important, but also to create a safe space for expression, for just people to gather and express themselves in, where new art can be created and where culture can regenerate itself. So we really need many, many more avenues and platforms and spaces for art, for expression, for artistic expression.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. I just want to. There's a couple of comments from people in our audience. Rabina Shafiq says that art is always beautiful and needs appreciation. There were some thumbs up, Arib, for the Art Langar and Mahdharthi initiatives. So that's nice. Organic farming is a beautiful thing, and someone gives a shout out to Burma culture, BERMA. So those are.
Apologies for interrupting you. I just also have to say the whole Mahdharthi project was basically that's what my thought behind it was, to organize the Mahdharthi project. But I didn't know anything about it at the time. So the only person who came to mind was someone I'd met years ago, Tawfiq Pasha Muraj from Karachi, who's also known as the gardener. And Tawfiq Pasha Muraj I'd met several years ago and remembered that, that he's doing something of this sort, but I wasn't really following his work closely. I called him. I thought he'd be really busy, too busy to have time for me or T2F, but he immediately got excited and immediately showed up at T2F. And then he was my mentor throughout this whole process. He put me in touch with all of these environmentalists, told me what the real issues are that we have to talk about. So Tawfiq Pasha, also those of you who are out there in the audience, just check him out. He's got a lot of social media pages. He does a lot of work on growing your own vegetables, on organic farming, on composting, on recycling, on water management. And he's got his own organic farm in Malir in Karachi also, which is a must visit if you're in Karachi. So sorry, just wanted to put that in.
No, thank you for that. That's wonderful. And something you said earlier really resonated with me as well. In that it's often some of the hardest issues that we face as as a society or as a globe. And you mentioned slavery. We have African American history coming up in February, and a lot of the most painful music that came out of that period led to blues and jazz and like very creative expressions of protest and also of solidarity. And we've seen that everywhere in the world where there are hard things to face. There's music and art that comes out of that, both as a way of coping and also as a way of showing solidarity. And I would say that is something that we're looking at with climate change as well. But I did want to ask you, are there, aside from the environment, are there other social issues or areas that you're looking at down the road to work on to use your music talents towards expressing?
Absolutely. There are so many things that I'd like to address through music. There's this. I've composed one song by Jalib on women's rights, but gender. I would call it equal opportunities for the genders is something that's very close to my heart. And also social justice is very close to my heart. I think that this disparity in the world is really not sustainable, because I believe in sustainability. And I have nothing against rich people becoming richer, but I do object when the gap between the rich and the poor keeps increasing and increasing. So in today's world, even though the poor people are also coming out of poverty at a faster rate than before, but at the same time, the richer people are becoming richer exponentially. So therefore, the gap is still increasing, and that gap is not sustainable. So we have to find models and ways to address that. And then, of course, in Pakistan, I feel that it's all over the world, but in Pakistan especially, I feel that tolerance is something that we really need to address through the arts, because if we don't have a tolerant society, then there's no space for the arts. So if I'm not willing to listen to your argument, if you're not willing to listen to my argument, if I don't give you the benefit of the doubt, if we can't start from a space where I say that, okay, we might share different views on things, but our core values are the same. We believe we want better for planet Earth. We want our kids to have a better life. We want a better world for everyone. We want everyone to be happy in the world. That's something we can all agree with and start from there. And if we can start from there, then whatever we say should not offend someone to the extent that it causes violence. So violence, which is caused out of intolerance, and because of, I feel, wrong interpretations that have been politically motivated and whatever, we won't get into that. But the end result of that is an intolerant society, which Pakistan was never so and still is not. But now I see that more than before. I see in my country, I see elements that are more intolerant than ever before. And that worries me. And I would like to see how I can express it in a way that people can understand, and hopefully that can change minds. Because, as I said, I believe in models that are sustainable, that should be inclusive, and that should allow spaces for discourse. So I guess these are the issues that are closest to my heart.
Yeah, those are all important issues. And on the issue of income discrepancy or disparity, that from everything I've been reading, that's actually gotten worse during COVID. We have another question from the audience. Did you incorporate nature sounds into your music, and if so, how?
Excellent question. Very little. At one part of the song, we incorporated the sound of rolling thunder. We incorporated the sound of water. We incorporated the sound of the rain. But that's about it. We didn't incorporate any animals or birds or anything like that, because we already have a lot of these acoustic nature sounding instruments playing along, like the murli bean, and like the Sindhi tamburo, and like the iktara, and then the different percussion instruments that they have in Tharpakar. And then, of course, there's guitars and there's modern sounds as well. So that's how we incorporate. How did we incorporate that? Separately. We downloaded sounds that were available, because there's so much there which is you don't need to go out and record the sound of rolling thunder anymore these days, because there's so much which is open source on social media, which you can legally download and use. So that's how we did. We used those sounds and integrated them in the sound studio. And I have to say that the sound was produced by my dear friend Zain Ali. Zain Ali is a gifted musician and a producer and an engineer. And he's played with me several times in the past. And before he joined Atif Aslam's band, he now plays with Atif. But he also produces a lot of music. He's producing a bunch of songs for Coke Studio this year as well. So he was the sound producer. So for the last few years, all my music projects I've been doing with him, because we have a beautiful working relationship. He exactly understands what I want and is able to translate it, digitally, technologically, which I'm not strong on. I'm more of a visual, conceptual type of person, and less of a technological person. So that's and besides his technological skills, he's a gifted musician as well. He's a great guitar player, great composer. So he he produced the sound.
Okay. Do you have since you talked a little bit earlier about writing the music and composing it, and do you have a particular favorite passage from the song? And if so, what is it and why? And if you like, you are welcome to sing it for us.
I'm happy with a lot of lines. I won't sing it for you so as not to, but I can slightly recite it for the audiences out there. It says, Qatra, Qatra, jama hua, matti hui tayyar. Ab sog manana band karo aur beej lagao yaar. So like Qatra, Qatra, every drop, when every drop was collected and the earth was made ready, now, then stop your complaining and now start planting. So that's how the song begins. And as I mentioned, in permaculture, it's very important how we harvest, conserve, use, regulate water. So it starts from water, because water is the central part of the cycle of life. And it ends with water as well. So and then it says, Jo kasht karega wohi malik, baki sab bekar. So the one who plants is the one who owns, because you have to take an active part in this. You can't just be a bystander in this process. And then he says, बीज से एक बूटा निकला, जड़ें उसकी मजबूत, उसकी मीठी छांव में रल बसी मखलूक. That from the seed a tree emerged, and beneath whose branches all forms, all manner of animals, birds, insects, creation gathered. So again, it's talking about that diversity, the diversity angle in permaculture. It says, "Lakdi bhi wo deta hai aur tarah tarah ke phal, badal bhi khich aayenge aaj nahi to kal." It gives us wood. It supplies us with wood, the tree, yeah, and with all types of fruit. And if not today, then tomorrow it will also draw the clouds in. Because that also, if we plant enough trees, it changes the climate. So, for example, if you plant a lot of trees, when you have a forest, for example, whatever precipitation happens of water, precipitation. It's a difficult word. Yeah, so a lot of trees together, water vapor rises up from the forest, and then it gets turned into clouds, and then those clouds go and then they give water back somewhere else. And that's why forests are such an integral part of the cycle. And that's why, it's so tragic the way the Amazon rainforest right now is just being destroyed, and all the major forest reservoirs of the earth are being destroyed, because without that we can't survive. So the tree is that central part which can also then draw in the clouds. So that's what this verse talks about. And then we also talk about garbage, and how one day our lifestyle of polluting will come back to haunt us. And then it says that we have to कूड़ा कचरा फेंकोगे तो बन जाएगा भूत, एक दिन वापस आके वो खोलेगा सारे झूठ, संभालो भी और बांटो भी, फिर चलेगी बात, नायब हो तुम इस दुनिया में उस माली के हाथ. So you have to conserve and you have to share, and that's the way forward, because we are, deputies here of the divine gardener. God is the divine gardener, nature is the divine gardener. So we're all deputies of that divine gardener, which is the model that we have to replicate. And then in the English part, do you want to do that, Philip?
Sure. So it's also very poetic. So gather in the shadow of the sacred tree. Luminescent fiber flow through you and me. So it's basically gathering all of humanity together. We're all connected through nature. And then
it's like
the of the endless sea.
From the deathless mountains
from the deathless
sea.
mountain to yes,
every drop is precious.
His trepish, yes, every form is free. So also getting back to the same theme of water bringing life, and how and the connection of humanity to water and to life, and yeah, this is very, very beautiful, very poetic. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, what Philip mentioned, gather in the shelter of the sacred tree, luminescent fibers flow through you and me, glow through you and me. If you've seen the Avatar, that's what that's expressing. In the Avatar, if you all remember, I love that film, by the way. It was because that's what it talks about. It talks about the living planet, which those aliens, the Avatar, who are actually more human than we are part of, and how they're integrated with that planet. So when they step somewhere, it starts glowing, and when they ride those dragon-like creatures, they connect their hair with that hair, and they become assimilated with it. So that's how we are. That's how our relationship to nature should be like. So that's what that part also expresses. So yeah. Also, I'd like to say, share it here if you like it, and tomorrow it'll be out on all other channels as well, on YouTube and on every channel out there for music, basically. So tomorrow you'll also be able to see it on various other platforms.
Yes, very good. I think we probably have time for another question if you have time. Let's okay, good. Let's see. Well, Faisal Shaved says a couple comments that real music is like relaxation therapy. He says he also really likes Sindhi music, and it's his dream to learn the drum. And he wants any advice on that. I would say that could apply to any of you out there who are interested in picking up any instrument or any music. If you have any advice for aspiring musicians, Arif.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone has to learn music. So you'll meet several musicians, including myself, mostly, who'll tell you that sometimes, depending if you catch me at a time and say, who taught you music? And I might say I'm self-taught. What that basically means is that I have learned from several teachers. If anyone says they're self-taught, it means they've learned from several teachers. No one is self-taught. Everyone has to learn something from somewhere. So before, of course, you had to find a teacher for music, and you can still do that, and you should still do that, because that's the fastest route. And if you want to learn an instrument, find a master player of that instrument. If you want to sing, find a master singer around you. Find someone who plays that instrument or who sings in a way that appeals to you. And if you like that way, then ask that person to teach you, or at least to point you out to the direction where he learned from. And the same with an instrument. Find a master who's playing who you like, and then ask them to teach you, or ask them to point you out where you can learn from. And of course, in today's world, we have social media, we have the internet, we have YouTube, which is really so helpful for musicians. I know some musicians who've done amazingly well through YouTube. But I have to say that usually you can learn from YouTube much faster if you're connected personally with some musicians or with some music teachers. Because, when you're on your own, when you're not part of a classroom or a school, or when you're not learning from any single teacher or a master, then it's also very easy to lose focus. It's easy to get, it's also, it's very important to be able to constantly keep assessing oneself. For example, if I want to learn the guitar, and I know people who've been through this, I can go out and buy a guitar from a shop, something within my budget, and maybe I end up getting a terrible guitar. And I wouldn't know, because I'm not a good musician yet. So I'd end up, the shopkeeper says, oh yeah, there's a good guitar, you can get it, it's in my budget. So I come home, I play the guitar, I find it difficult to tune, it sounds bad, and I start blaming myself. And I think, oh, maybe I don't have it in me to become a musician, only because my instrument is bad. And there's no one around me to tell me it's not you, it's the instrument. So that's why it's important to be connected with musicians if you want to become a musician, if you want to become an artist. If you want to turn it into your career, I would say, think very carefully. It's not an easy career. I won't lie. It's damn difficult. It's one of the most difficult careers out there. Making a living off your art is incredibly difficult across the world, more so in Pakistan, where we don't really have a lot of funding for the arts. So it's not easy, but it's not impossible. And if you're a true artist, then you won't be asking this question. Then it'll be outside of your choice, because then the choice would have happened in your heart, and you would know that whatever it may bring, I have to do my art. I have to follow this path. I have to express myself artistically because I'm bursting with it. And then this question won't be relevant for you. And then you will find the means to find the right teacher or teachers, and the company. The company is really important. In whatever art form you want to learn, start hanging around with people who are practicing it.
Great, thank you. That is inspiring. And even if you, any of you in the artist or you who asked that question about Faisal, about picking up the drum, even if you don't make a living at it, as an amateur musician myself, who I don't make my living off of music, but it's still a passion of mine, and that can still be a passion of yours. I would encourage you to take up the drum regardless of what you do with it, if it's something that's of interest to you. So with that, I believe we've come to the close of our session. I would like to thank, first of all of you for joining in our audience today. These PUAN sessions are a really nice way to connect with all the great projects that the U.S. government alumni are doing across Pakistan, including initiatives such as this on a critical subject such as climate change and protecting the environment. It is my pleasure to have been your host and moderator today. I'd also like to thank Shanila Mazar from PUAN for setting all of this up for us. My colleagues here from the embassy, Shahid and Paul, thank you all. Please do check out the video tomorrow. You'll see it on YouTube. It's going to be on the embassy page as well, our Facebook page. We are very, very pleased to have been a part of this project. I personally have. Arif, is there a final word that you would like to say to our audience as well?
No, just thank you, everyone. Thank you to the PUAN team. Thank you to the U.S. Embassy Cultural Department for making this project possible. And thank you all of you who are throbbing, shining people out there. Yeah, you can make a difference.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great. With that, we will close our event, and we invite you to watch the video tomorrow and to continue following the PUAN Facebook page and the Embassy Facebook page for other events such as this and other cultural initiatives as well. Thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.
So,